Hello Sensuals. If you remember, last year I started a guy challenge, and that was the opportunity for men to ask questions around sexuality. Since I'm not doing anything towards them, I'm doing everything with women right now. So I received another set of questions from a man, and there are actually 4, and they're kind of extreme, but we'll get into them. I just want to tell you that I'll be answering them briefly, and then I'll just stick to a major idea or point that I want to get through, because I think that would be much more important. So here are the questions first. What do women think about circumcised penis? Do women think a circumcised penis is better due to cleanliness, look, and sexual performance? Should a wife ask husband to circumcise? Is it common for women to dominate male orgasm and to decide when to ejaculate? Is it common for women to ruin male orgasm for the purpose of having fun and keeping the male aroused for a longer period of time? Those were some, okay, there are 5 actually. He put 2 times the number 3, but it doesn't matter. So I'll get to each one simply to answer, but I think there's a much more important thing here to point out, and that's what I want to focus on later on. So the first one, what do women think about circumcised penis? Well, I'll stick to the culture that I live in because I'm not sure what in other countries' practices are. I don't think people talk so much here about this practice. I know that it's up to the parents when the children are born whether to opt for this or not. Unlike other cultures, we don't have this procedure done when we're 13 or 14, so there's no habitual practice here. So I don't think women where I come from have an opinion about this. I don't even think they sat down to worry about it. Secondly, do women think a circumcised penis is better due to cleanliness, look, and sexual performance? Now, no, because of the answer that I gave to the first one. I don't think anyone sits down to think of all these details. I know that there are certain reasonings for doing this procedure when it comes to cleanliness, look, and sexual performance, but I'm not sure how valid they are. As part of my studies, I have asked this question to other men who are also doing the same training than I am, and a lot of these men believed that this was unnatural to do, and with no scientific or no medical proof that this is actually the case. So I think cleanliness is done just like for any other person, and this is something that you do regularly. Look, I think this is a very subjective thing, and you can't really generalize it. I think in terms of taste preferences and standards, I think people are different, and there's no way to go about this in a general manner. And performance, well, I have never heard that circumcision will affect performance. I think health affects performance, nutrition, and age, of course, and the way you work out, the way you keep yourself physically fit. It will affect all areas of your life, including your intimate one. The third question. Should a wife ask a husband to circumcise? Now this question, I think it has some religious or cultural background here, but I'll just say it. I don't think anyone should impose their will into somebody else, especially when it's something like this. And I know that in other cultures, there is also a practice for women where they get parts of themselves, their intimate anatomy, cut out as a practice, and they're not being asked about it, it's just being done. So I think this is mutilation on either side, and I don't think anyone has the right to ask somebody else for anything. This is a personal and individual decision, and that's it. So in terms of wife asking husband or husband asking wife, no, I don't think so. This is my subjective opinion. You may, if you're married, you might come to the realization that maybe your wife thinks differently, but again, my answer is no. The fourth question, is it common for women to dominate male orgasm and to decide when to ejaculate? No, I'll just put it like this. No, it's not common for anyone to do anything to somebody else without their permission, without their consent. So I don't know where this practice is. I do know that in our culture it's much more widespread, that women are the ones being dominated and abused physically than men. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, and I think that everything that happens in your intimacy is to be of mutual agreement. This is mutual agreement, mutual consent. And the last question, is it common for women to ruin male orgasm for the purpose of having fun and keeping the male aroused for a longer period of time? The answer here again is no. It is not common to do anything in intimacy without your partner's consent, whether you're a man or a woman. Now, I don't really know what you are talking about when you're saying ruining male orgasm. And I don't know that a partner who's really caring for you, who wants to spend their intimate moments with you, does that to you as, I don't know, an attempt to dominate you, to make your life miserable or your pleasurable moments not so pleasurable, and so on. So I don't think anyone would do that. Now, I said that I also have a point that I want to get across. After first reading these questions, my first reaction was that there's a lot of anger or upset or a feeling of not having control by the person who asked these questions. Now, when you say that, is it right? Should somebody ask anybody else to do things? There's also the tone of your message was upset. And I would like to address that, actually. I think that's the underlying problem here. And for some reason, to me, again, this is subjective, it seemed that somebody crossed your borders somehow, and you were either unable to realize that you had your borders crossed, or you had said that and yet the other person didn't acknowledge. Now, this is not something common, and this is not something that anyone would want to happen to them. To a certain extent, your questions were very straightforward, and they also contained the answers. Now, the impression that you gave me was that you were looking for a feeling of justice and relief somehow, or to get a sense of clarity more so than the actual answers. I believe that every time you engage with somebody in intimate moments, you need to talk first, and you need to reach mutual consent, whatever happens. So nobody should do anything without the other person's consent. Nobody should ask of the other person things that are not human, that are considered a sacrifice, and so on. This is not the case. We're not at war, we're at love. So it doesn't mean that you need to change who you are physically, emotionally, intellectually, your entire being just to please somebody else. And if people have requests of you that mean so much, maybe you need to ask them, are you sure that you want me and not somebody else? I believe in intimacy, in physical intimacy, you need to come from a sense of clarity who you are and what you have to offer. And also get clarity from the other person who they are and what they have to offer. It is the most elevated way and the most beautiful way in which to meet somebody. And this is where I would encourage you to look for. So the answers, I hope they help you in some way, but the general feeling, I hope that one, you get to work on it and you get to improve it somehow. So thank you for your questions. Remember, this is just my subjective opinion, and you can always ask therapists and other people that you have around you who are trained in therapy, in relationship therapy or coaching. So until next time, I hope that you have a beautiful and harmonious, intimate life.